The wrestling world just got flipped upside down, and what I'm about to tell you is going to blow your mind because the original plan for Seth Rollins and the vision was completely different from what we saw, and it would have changed everything we know about Monday Night Raw right now. Before I dive into this absolute bombshell, make sure you hit that subscribe button because you're not going to want to miss what's coming next on this channel. Seth Rollins has been carrying Monday Night Raw on his back for years and everyone knows it, but what you don't know is that the creative team had something cooking behind the scenes that would have made his storyline with the Vision one of the most talked about angles in recent memory. The original ending that was pitched and almost greenlit would have seen Seth Rollins not just defeating the Vision but actually joining forces with them in a shocking heel turn that nobody saw coming. Think about that for a second, because Seth as the leader of a dominant faction like the Vision would have been absolute chaos in the best way possible. The plan was for Seth to cost Drew McIntyre a major opportunity at the title and then reveal that he had been working with the Vision all along, playing everyone for fools. This would have explained why the Vision kept showing up at convenient times during Seth's matches and why there always seemed to be this weird tension that never fully exploded into what we expected. The twist gets even crazier because the person who was supposed to be the one to unmask the betrayal was none other than Cody Rhodes himself. Cody was going to be the babyface who had to stand up against his former friend and the entire Vision faction, leading to a massive WrestleMania program that would have dominated the headlines for months. The creative team spent weeks planning out the details, including specific promos that Seth was going to cut about how he was tired of being overlooked despite being the workhorse of the company. He was going to talk about how he built Raw from the ground up while guys like Cody got all the glory and the main event spots at the biggest shows. The heat from those promos alone would have been nuclear, because there's always been this underlying feeling among some fans that Seth deserves more credit than he gets. But then something happened backstage that changed everything, and it wasn't a creative decision or a last-minute rewrite. The higher UPS got cold feet about turning Seth heel again because they were worried about the live crowd reactions and how it might affect merchandise sales. Seth Rollins is one of the top sellers when it comes to shirts and replica gear, so turning him heel right before a major sales quarter didn't make business sense to the people in suits. That's the reality of this business sometimes, where the best creative ideas get thrown out the window because of spreadsheets and projected revenue numbers. So instead of getting the shocking heel turn and the massive storyline, we were robbed of what could have been and got a watered-down version where the Vision just kind of fizzled out without any real payoff. Now let's talk about Jade Cargill, because she absolutely went off during a recent backstage segment and people are still talking about what went down. Jade has been on a tear since coming to WWE, and she's not holding back when it comes to speaking her mind about where she stands in the women's division. During a meeting with creative, she apparently made it crystal clear that she's not interested in being just another name on the roster or being used as a prop to make other people look good. Sources close to the situation say that Jade laid out exactly what she wants to do and how she sees her character evolving over the next year. She wants to be positioned as the most dominant force in the women's division, and she's not afraid to speak up when she feels like the booking doesn't reflect that vision. The specific incident that has everyone buzzing happened when Jade was told about a planned loss to another superstar in a match that was supposed to help build someone else's momentum heading into a pay-per-view. Jade reportedly pushed back hard on the idea and explained why it didn't make sense for her character to take that loss at that particular time. She wasn't being difficult for the sake of being difficult, but rather she was advocating for herself and making sure that her character's presentation stayed consistent with what had been established. This is exactly the kind of thing that veterans have been doing for decades, but when someone newer to the company does it, some people backstage get uncomfortable with it. What makes this situation even more interesting is that Jade has the support of several key people in the women's locker room who respect her willingness to stand up for herself. The women's division has been on fire lately, and a big part of that is because the wrestlers themselves are more involved in their own storylines and characters than ever before. Jade is just following that same path and making sure that she has a say in how she's presented to the audience. The meeting got heated at points, but by the end everyone came to an understanding about how to move forward with her character in a way that made sense for both the immediate story and the long-term plans. Jade ended up working with the writers to come up with an alternative finish to the match that still accomplished what creative wanted while also keeping her looking strong. That's the kind of collaborative approach that leads to better television and better stories overall. She's not trying to bury anyone or make herself look better at someone else's expense, but she is making sure that the work she's put in to build her character doesn't get thrown away for a short-term booking decision. The fact that she was able to have that conversation and come out of it with a solution shows a level of professionalism that some people twice her age in the business still haven't figured out. Moving on to AJ Styles and the rumors that have been swirling about whether he's actually done with WWE or if this is all part of an elaborate work. AJ has been dropping hints on social media and in interviews that have people genuinely confused about what's real and what's part of the show. The latest reports suggest that AJ is legitimately considering stepping away from full-time competition but not necessarily retiring from wrestling altogether. He's been dealing with some nagging injuries that have been bothering him more than he's let on publicly, and at his age the wear and tear of the WWE schedule is starting to catch up with him. The original plan that was floated around backstage was for AJ to transition into a part-time role similar to what Edge did before he moved to another company. AJ would work major pay-per-views and special episodes of television but wouldn't be grinding out the weekly house show schedule anymore. This would allow him to extend his career while also giving his body time to recover between appearances. However, there's been some back and forth about exactly what that deal would look like and how much creative control AJ would have over his character and storylines. AJ is at a point in his career where he's not interested in just showing up and doing whatever he's told without having any input. The situation got more complicated when AJ started having conversations with people outside of WWE about what opportunities might exist if he decided to leave. He's not actively trying to get out of his contract, but he is doing his due diligence and exploring what else is out there. This isn't unusual for someone in his position, but it did cause some concern among WWE officials who don't want to lose one of their most reliable veterans. AJ brings a level of credibility and in-ring excellence that's hard to replace, and losing him would leave a gap in the roster that wouldn't be easy to fill. What's really interesting about the AJ situation is that his contract status has been kept very quiet compared to other high-profile talent. Usually when someone's deal is coming up there are reports and rumors everywhere, but with AJ it's been surprisingly under the radar. Some people think this is intentional and that both sides are trying to keep the negotiations private to avoid any outside pressure or speculation. Others believe that the lack of information means that AJ has already made up his mind about what he wants to do and is just waiting for the right time to make an announcement. There's also been talk about AJ potentially doing a farewell tour if he does decide to hang it up for good. WWE loves to do retirement tours for their legends because it gives fans a chance to say goodbye, and it also generates buzz and ticket sales for those shows. AJ would absolutely deserve that kind of send-off given everything he's accomplished in his career both in WWE and before he got there. He's one of those guys who elevated every single person he worked with and made even average matches feel special because of how good he is at his craft. The backstage sentiment about AJ is unanimous respect from everyone from the young guys just starting out to the established main eventers who've been doing this for years. Nobody has a bad word to say about AJ Styles, and that's incredibly rare in a business that can be full of egos and politics. If he does decide to walk away, people will understand because he's earned the right to make that choice on his own terms. But there's also hope that he'll stick around in some capacity because the roster is better when he's part of it. Getting back to Seth Rollins for a moment, because there's more to the story about what the original Vision ending would have meant for the entire Raw roster. The plan wasn't just about Seth turning heel but about reshaping the entire power structure of the show. The Vision was supposed to become the dominant faction that controlled everything from title opportunities to who got pushed and who got held back. This would have created natural storylines for months as different babyfaces tried to fight back against the corrupt system that Seth and the Vision had established. Drew McIntyre was going to be the first victim of the new regime, and his chase to get revenge on Seth would have been a multi-month program that culminated at a major stadium show. After that, other wrestlers would have started joining the resistance against the Vision, creating a war between two sides of the roster. It was ambitious storytelling that required long-term planning and commitment from everyone involved. The fact that it got scrapped at the last minute left a lot of people frustrated because they had been preparing for this direction and suddenly had to pivot to something completely different. The wrestlers involved had already started laying the groundwork in their promos and matches for where things were going to go. When the plan changed, they had to backtrack and pretend like those little hints and teases never happened. That's always awkward for everyone because the hardcore fans notice those things and start asking questions about what happened. It's one of the downsides of such a heavily scripted product where last-minute changes can undermine weeks or even months of careful build. Make sure you subscribe to this channel because we're always bringing you the latest news and insider information about what's really happening in the wrestling world, and you won't want to miss a single update.